I think that's a topic we need to kind of address. Maybe do a little research, come back next week, and make that one of the topics is this idea of not being able to work across the aisle anymore. I know back in the '80s, we had Reagan, and there was a lot going on then where there was a lot of unanimous decisions on where the country should go moving forward. And there's been polarization going on, and the Big Tent Republican Party is going to dominate. And so
you're worried about the split in the Republican Party, right?
It's inevitable. Yeah. I think it's inevitable.
I do hear that.
Especially with, I'd like to do a little bit of a video on it, but it basically boils down to America first and the definition of America first. And, I really haven't picked your brain on this. I think I know where you would fall, but you have people like the ostracized now Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon, some of those Silicon Valley guys that say America first, but what they really mean is GDP first. What they really mean is economy first, capitalism first. Mm-hmm. And what I think Trump is more leaning towards, and which I appreciate, and then some others is like let's say Tucker Carlson or some of the more notable voices that don't have actual political positions. Maybe you might say Mike Lee. They advocate for an American first position, mm-hmm. where Americans are put first outside of just purely GDP and the economy. I don't know where you fall on that one.
1,000% America first, but Josh would be. I'd love to hear him because Josh is part of a very popular broadcast here in our city, and you entertain these calls all the time. Would you say most of your listeners are hardcore American first? Where does your audience lie? You're the best litmus test.
That's a little Generation Z in him too.
It's a good question, and it depends because like Zeb was saying, a lot of these guys like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, what they really mean by America first is GDP first. And when you're talking about Wake Up Carolina and that show, it's a radio broadcast, and it's just a simple fact that the vast majority of radio listeners are elderly, or they're the boomer generation, maybe late Gen X, millennials, probably fewer of them, but they have the sort of Reagan mentality. The truth is that our brains basically, we become who we are in our mid-20s, and the rest of your life is almost viewed through the lens of your mid-20s. And with the people that are now in their 60s, they were in the 20s, they're in their 20s during the Reagan years. And so their entire lens is viewed through that. And what was going on at that time? You had a consolidated media. They may have even back then had the appearance of unbiasedness.
Great point. Really, I never thought about it like that.
Right. So they're still watching something like Fox News today. And what Zeb and I agree on is we're afraid that basically the message of America first, which we would say is putting Americans first. And even a lot of them believe that. But the people at the top, the people that are really funding this kind of talk, they're slipping in these little things with it that aren't really America first. Like Vivek Ramaswamy. He comes out, he's like, we need to close the border, we need to be against all this illegal immigration. We agree with that. But he says, but what we do want is vast amounts of high-skilled labor coming here legally. Sounds good. But what is Vivek talking about? He's talking about, he's in tech. He's in pharmaceuticals. He's talking about importing vast amounts of Indians like him into this country. And, this is not like a bigoted type thing, but what would that do to the current American population? If you go on Twitter, I've seen plenty of videos of this where there's young white Americans that are being passed over in their applications towards places like Harvard. They pull up their credentials, their all their extracurriculars. They're amazing things, and they can't get. It shows that I'm thinking of one video in particular. This young man, he applied to like Harvard, MIT, basically all the Ivy League schools in America, and even some of the like ones that aren't considered Ivy League but are still hard to get into. He couldn't get into any of them. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure there's more qualified people than him out there, but he can't get into any of these. Well, who are they giving these positions to? And who's getting passed over for these tech jobs? I don't think that's America first.
Yeah, I think there's a displacement going on, whether it's legal or illegal immigration. You know, some would call it replacement, me being one. But is this the first time you kind of looking at this split that we're kind of talking about, this idea of economy first, capitalism greatest thing to ever be created, and then the American first, where we want to protect a future for our children, is essentially what it is.
So, you know, I've pondered on it. I hadn't sat down and discussed it with anybody, but of course it always...
We kind of throwing this on you right now off the top of your head.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, I think there's a lot of different variables. You know, I would be one of those looking through the lens of back at Reagan and the way how things were done, and we're in totally different environment now. So I think truly, let me throw it back on you. You guys are going to be one that shapes this movement. I mean, you just are.
Yeah, I think we are too, but it's hard because we can use a derogatory term if you want to call it that way, but the boomers will not give over the keys to the kingdom. They won't let it go.
Yeah.
So here's going to be your challenge.
And so we're fighting a war on two fronts.
I hear you, but how are you guys going to assemble your age? We assembled. I know this sounds very elementary, but honestly, we assembled by watching the 6 o'clock news. That's all I had to do, and I knew everything, and I got accurate information. You guys, there's just so many ways to get your information. I mean, what do y'all settle on? What is the driving force for you young folks? I mean, certainly podcasts, but I mean, there's millions of them out there. We tuned in. We all tuned in at, well, actually 6:30, my age, and we got everything that.
Why did you tune in at 6:30 at your age to the TV?
Because I was interested in what was going on in the world, and that was where you got your information.
Here's why
one source.
Here's why I think it was that. You know, there was more sources. You know, you have your newspaper and some other things.
Well,
the speed
it was
at
the AP,
the
so it all
speed
aligned.
the speed at which the medium is able to deliver the information is the defining factor. And so the answer to your question is Twitter. Or X. As long as Elon allows us to post things without banning everyone for not breaking TOS, Twitter is going to be that defining factor.
Is that y'all's primary source?
He's not. I am. But the speed at which information is able to pass through Twitter is insane. I mean, it's seconds within it happen.
I do agree, though. It is the platform. I'm kind of new to it myself. It was hard for me to break
on Twitter,
into.
But I don't use it that often at all.
Yeah, but I think
I'm just saying there's nothing there to bring you guys all together.
Yeah, it's coming. I think it's coming. There's a lot of like reverberation.
We heard one voice. Y'all hear 1,000 voices.
Which
is really, I mean,
it has its advantages,
yeah.
but also its disadvantages. You're right.
There's reverberations between J.D. Vance's showing on Fox News and some of his, I think it was on 60 Minutes, and a couple of other ones that have reverberated a lot of what Catholic and Reformed and Orthodox Twitter has been pushed in the last little bit. It's a very much a echo of the Twitter space that exists right now and is very lively. I think it's moving forward. Just like America First, there's a lot of quarrels. There's a lot of quarrels within the who defines Christian nationalism, just as who defines America First. And I think moving forward, the person that is going to define that is we don't know yet. I got a couple books over here, and some names would be like Stonequire or Stephen Wolfe, or you got Doug Wilson throwing his hat in there. But to agree on that is going to be difficult without let's call them a catalyst.
Well, see, you guys are shaped by 1,000 opinions. I mean, that's another way of saying what I just said a while ago. And you said there's some advantages to that. There is. However, at my age, do y'all even know the name Walter Cronkite?
Yeah.
We heard Walter, and what Walter said was the gospel. There was he didn't even use adjectives. It was a matter of fact. And so we got what I felt like was a true message. You guys are bombarded with conspiracy theories, with actual people on site, but I just don't know how you do it. You guys,
Well, you
I don't know how you form your opinions almost.
If you're asking for will there be a person like Donald Trump? I think Donald Trump was a huge catalyst and a perfect example of one, but he's getting old. Like if you watch him compare, like he's not as bad as Biden was, clearly, but he's lost some steam. And I think to carry the message into the future, this is where we may part ways a little bit. They're trying to put forth J.D. Vance. But who do I mean by they? It's kind of like what Zeb said. The boomers, I think, don't want to hand the reins over. And I know when you hear a young person say that, it may come across as arrogant, it may come across as whatever. But there is some truth to that, because what's one of the things that we're even talking about on the conservative side? All these 90-year-old guys in office. And the problem is not that they're white guys, it's that they're 90 years old. and they don't want to relinquish the reins of power. And this is something I was talking about with him. You can see the boomer fingerprints all over J.D. Vance, and I'd say it's because he's young, but he's got like baby face. He seems like a kid almost, even though he's like 30, 40 something. That like to the boomers, that's why he appeals to them so much, is because he seems like they want to make sure the future is certain. But it can't be someone that they see as a peer. It has to be someone that they view as a child. That's why I think they like J.D. Vance so much.